I wanted to look at Knit Picks palette today. So I bought some of this over the winter and used it to make a couple of accessory projects, and obviously I have a lot left. Basic overview of this yarn: it is a fingering weight, 231 yards per 50 grams. It is made in Peru. It is hand wash only, so please note that this is not a superwash, and it is not the softest yarn in the world, but it is nice. It is dry flat only, 100% Peruvian Highland wool, and one of the other things I really liked was it was Ocotex certified, so that always makes me feel better that it is at least a cleaner product to be working with. So palette's got 150 colors, and I don't have them all obviously, but what I've seen so far, I really like the colors that I ended up with. It also has a bare option, which, sorry, I'm knocking my camera, is this creamy color, which would really be good for color work that needs a white or a cream color on its own. So these are some samples that I have dyed. So it seems to dye well. I just used food color and was able to get, just trying to work on some lighter, more mid-range pastel colors. So kind of a brownish tan, medium green. This is a light blue. So basically one project I made, and this is on Knit Picks, this pattern. I believe they're called the Woodland or Winter Woodland mitten set. They have 6 different patterns, and I actually use this as my first color work project. I also made a pair of men's mitts that I don't have here to show you because I gave them away. So yeah, I suppose it would be good to document those things if you want to showcase them at all. The only thing I ran into with this pattern is I did add a couple thumb stitches, but it could be my fault because I did not check the gauge. I just kind of went at it, and my hands are really small, and I knit pretty tightly, and it seems like it worked out all right for me, but you should obviously check your gauge. But overall, the pattern and the yarn is very pretty. I believe I hand dyed this one and I hand dyed that one, and then these ones are palette colors that are available to buy. So overall impression, like, I think these turned out great, and I don't even know what I'm doing fully. And there's a lot of pretty sweater patterns and things with this yarn. So if you want to try it out, I would say try a smaller project, some hats, some gloves, some mittens, something like that. But haven't had any issues with that. It looks really nice. It worked up really well. It spit spliced really well. So if you want to use that technique for any reason, it totally worked. So just so you can see a few examples of the colors. I really like the heathers in this lineup of colors here. They are pretty neat. So this one's Mist. This is Finley Heather, which it's like a light, warm gray kind of color. I know I see people being unhappy sometimes when they get a color that doesn't look the same as on screen. I have found that that does happen, but I guess I'm maybe just not that picky because I really end up liking the colors even if they're not quite matching what I see on screen. This is Oregon Coast Heather, which is a really interesting color. It's kind of a tan, but it's also got these warm reddish, golden, and bluish tints to it. So there's some up close there. I'm trying to get some natural light going on. This one is Hair Heather. It's a little more solid. And what was nice too, when I dyed this, I was able to get relatively solid colors. Seraphim and Bouquet Heather. Again, this one's not a heather, but this one, you can kind of see, has some crazy variation. It's kind of a violet, golden, raspberry type color, which is kind of cool. But they all look really nice together too. Like you can make some neat color combinations. This was an interesting one, Stellar Heather. It's almost a black, but it's got some like dark cherry red in it. And Bittersweet is a dark brown. This is supposed to be a heather. It's again not the heatheriest of heathers. That is a technical term. And kind of over the other side, some greens. Verdant Heather. Again, it's got some golden, slightly autumny tones mixed in with this darker mossy green, which is pretty. Seagrass. Lighter kind of yellow green. Now, another thing about palette is you do get quite a lot out of it. I, for example, used this opal heather in 2 different projects. This one and the mitts that I made. And I still have a fair amount left. I rewound it. I have not weighed this, so I'm not exactly certain of what it weighs, but it's a very pretty blue heather color. It's got a little bit of purple tint to it and a little bit of a green tint to it. Iris Heather, this purple, has some gold mixed in with it, some slightly reddish. I think that is a stray fibers from somewhere. Caper, which one of my favorite olivey green colors. And I believe this was Midnight. I don't have the ball band right now, but it's a dark blue heather. It's kind of got a teal mixed in with it. Marble Heather, it's kind of a nice cool medium gray, light medium gray. And finally, black. Very true black. So overall, like I said, if you want to try palette, it certainly goes a long way. You might want to pick a project that has a color or 2 in it, so you don't have to end up with a bunch of extra if you don't like it. So like these mitts, they needed at least 6 colors. So you end up buying 6 balls and you're gonna have leftovers. And actually, I forgot the 7th color, which is the cuffs and the background colors. So, like I said, it's not a super wash, and it is not the softest yarn. It's certainly not as soft as some of the other products that Knit Picks has, like Stroll. It's not even as soft as Hawthorne. If you're familiar with any of the other fingering weight lines, it's definitely not as soft as those, but it feels more utilitarian, like sort of like Wool of the Andes, but I actually think it's a little softer than that personally. It's intended for that because of the way that obviously you can do the different techniques, you can felt it, you can steek it, and it's all going to bind together because it is that. So if you can, feel comfortable with it, it probably would work out pretty well for those sort of projects. For hats, for mitts, for gloves, I actually think I would go back to palette because it does feel like a hard-wearing yarn. Haven't tested that, so I have no evidence whatsoever, but it feels like it will stand up. So overall, that's my impressions of palette. I certainly would use it again.